Welcome back to Reddit Tales by Uncle Sammy. I see you, I appreciate you, and I'm thankful you subscribe and keep showing up. This space is built on your insights. Leave your thoughts and lessons below. Now, cue the tension, cue the truth. Let's get into it. Before this story starts, pay attention to one thing you can actually use. When a spouse keeps calling your question control instead of answering them, that is not freedom. That is deflection. In this story, the nightclub was only the final spark. The real danger showed up earlier in late receipts, changed routines, and a husband who kept apologizing for noticing what was right in front of him. My name is Byron Cade. I was 41 that winter, living in a brick bungalow in Chatham with my wife, Nia, and a marriage that looked steadier from the sidewalk than it felt from the inside. I repaired band instruments for Chicago public schools, which meant my hands always smelled a little like valve oil, brass polish, and cork grease. Nia used a joke that she could find me blindfolded by scent alone. By the end, she said it like a complaint. We had been married 11 years, and somewhere in those years I got very skilled at tightening loose screws in everything except the life I was actually living. Nia was 39, sharp as a crease in starched linen. The kind of woman who could make a donor feel seen in under 2 minutes. She worked in alumni relations for a small arts college in Bronzeville, and she was very good at it. She had a public voice and a private voice, and the difference between them used to amuse me. The public one was honey and confidence. The private one, once she got irritated, could get flat and cold enough to frost over a whole room. She kept fountain pens lined up by color on her desk and practiced thank you calls in the microwave reflection while her tea heated. If you enjoy emotional cheating stories, marriage betrayal drama, and real-life relationship karma stories that build slow and hit hard, go ahead and like this video right now. Share it with somebody who knows how dangerous silence can be in a relationship, and subscribe for more original first-person drama stories like this. I was not a dramatic man. That mattered more than I realized. My father had been loud, my mother louder, and our old apartment in South Indiana had trained me young to treat peace like something fragile. I became the one who smoothed things over. I joked when I was hurt. I asked the extra question gently, then backed off if I got that look. By the time Nia and I were in our 9th year, I had turned restraint into a personality. It made me easy to live with. It also made me easy to dismiss. There is a difference, and I learned it later than I should have. Our house had its own habits. The porch light flickered when it rained. The back gate gave a rusty cry if you closed it too fast. On Saturday mornings, I spread old towels on the dining table and repad clarinet keys, while WVON talked low from the kitchen radio. On Sundays, unless she had an event, we went to New Mount Calvary and then over to my Aunt Pearline's for smothered chicken, sweet potatoes, and 3 generations of opinions. Nia used to bring peach cobbler in a glass dish and let my little cousin scrape the corners. That stopped before I admitted it had stopped. The first shift was so small, I almost felt childish for noticing it. Nia started taking off her wedding ring before campus events, claiming it snagged fabric or looked too traditional for younger donors. She would set it in a porcelain teacup by the sink, rinse her hands, and leave without it. I asked once, standing there with my lunch cooler in one hand, "You only worried about that ring lately?" She didn't even look up. Byron, not everything is a symbol. That line stayed with me. Because in a marriage, almost everything is a symbol if you pay attention long enough. Then came the nights that ran late for reasons that sounded polished and empty at the same time. Cultivation dinner. Board after party. Site visit with the event consultant. She always had a noun that made the lateness sound official. One Thursday, she came in after midnight and left her clutch on the bench by the door. I was reaching for my keys the next morning when a valet stub slid out. It was for a boutique hotel near the river, not the parking garage attached to her campus. She saw the paper in my hand and took it with a speed that said more than her face did. "Terrence gave me his ticket by mistake," she said. We were all juggling codes. Terrence Polk entered my life like a loose thread I kept finding in different places. I knew his name before I knew why I should care. He was an outside events producer who worked the college's bigger galas and donor receptions, a man with a habit of calling everybody family while never sounding warm. I had met him twice. Both times he shook my hand like he had somewhere better to be. Nia defended him before I even criticized him. He gets things done, she said. Not everybody has time to move at your speed. It was a mean little sentence, quick enough to pretend it was nothing, sharp enough to land. By February, she was missing more Sundays. Aunt Pearline noticed before I did because older women who have raised whole families can smell a lie through a closed oven door. One afternoon over collard greens and cornbread, she asked, "That girl's still working every weekend?" I gave the answer I had been giving everybody. Busy season. My aunt looked at me over the rim of her glasses and said, "Busy is a season. Disappearing is a choice." I laughed it off because that was what I did with uncomfortable truth when it came dressed too plainly. The first moment, I knew I was not imagining things happen on our own back porch in sleet. Nia thought I was asleep. I had gotten up for water and saw the kitchen light under the swinging door. She stood wrapped in my old Howard University hoodie, phone pressed to her ear, speaking in a low, soft tone she had not used with me in months. I did not hear every word. I heard enough. No, he does not track me like that. Then a pause. Then a laugh that felt private in a way that made my stomach clench. I stepped back before the floorboard could betray me. I could have confronted her right there. I nearly did. My hand was on the doorknob. I even had the opening line. But my mother was due for her church anniversary the following Sunday, and her blood pressure had been shaky for weeks. I pictured one midnight scene turning into family calls, accusations, my mother pretending she was fine, while clearly not fine at all. So I chose the quieter road. At the time, I call that maturity. Looking back, it was part caution and part fear. I needed more than a few overheard words before I blew up the only life I had. The next week, I tried a cleaner question over breakfast. Nia was standing at the counter in one stocking foot, one heel, eating a slice of toast without sitting down. "Do you and Terrence work together one-on-one a lot now?" I asked. She put the toast down very carefully. "What is this? A question?" "No, Byron. It is a surveillance habit to wear a polite shirt." She had a way of making language itself sound embarrassed for being in the room. Then she grabbed her tote and added, "You need to figure out why you're so threatened by my life expanding." That line worked on me for a while, because it hit an old bruise. Nia had always framed herself as movement and me as stillness. She loved that I was dependable until dependable stopped flattering her. Suddenly I was small-town minded, too careful, too comfortable with routine. It did not matter that I fixed broken instruments for schools across the city, that I trained new techs, that I freelance on weekends tuning church pianos from Auburn Gresham to Roseland. In her mouth, stability became another word for smallness. And because I loved her, I let her define the terms too often. What changed everything was not some dramatic lipstick stain or hotel key in plain view. It was a search for a stamp pad. My niece was turning 10, and I was helping my sister mail out invitations for a skating party. Nia kept the office supplies in the guest room closet, inside a clear storage bin labeled mailers. The stamp pad was not there, but an old college-issued iPad was, tucked in a shoebox behind tissue paper. I only touched it because I thought it might help me find the digital invite template she had mentioned. The screen lit up without a passcode. I still remember the first image on it. Nia at a hotel mirror, one hand on her hip, Terrence behind her adjusting his tie, both of them grinning like they had invented secrecy. No kissing. They did not need to be. The intimacy was obvious in the ease. I sat on the edge of the guest bed and felt my body go still in that unnatural way it does when the truth arrives before your emotions can catch it. Then I saw the folders. Reimbursements. Venue scouts. Donor dinners. Inside them were hotel invoices, rideshare screenshots, room charges billed as event expenses, and pictures attached to nothing official at all. There are discoveries that feel loud, and there are discoveries that feel like all the sound in the house has been vacuumed out at once. This was the second kind. I scrolled in silence. There were months of evidence, not just of cheating, but of choreography. She and Terrence had turned deceit into paperwork. There were notes about staggering arrivals, screenshots of restaurant reservations after she told me she was with women from the office, and a message from him that read, "Do not worry. He still thinks this is school business." I stared at that sentence until the words blurred and sharpened again. I made my first decision there on that guest bed. I did not smash the iPad. I did not drag it into the kitchen and wait. I copied everything to a flash drive I used for instrument diagrams, then put the device back exactly where I found it, tissue paper and all. I chose that because public emotion had always helped Nia. It let her shift from liar to manager, from guilty to offended. I needed facts she could not style her way around. Quiet felt weak while I was doing it. Later I realized quiet can also be disciplined. I sat on the information for 4 days, which is a sentence that sounds cleaner than the actual experience. In real life, it meant waking up at 3 with my pulse hammering. It meant watching her stand at our sink washing wine glasses and thinking, you touched somebody else before you touched that stem. It meant going to Mabe's Diner on 75th after work, where my Uncle Reggie met me every Wednesday for coffee and chess, and moving a bishop 3 squares without seeing the board. He set his fork down and said, "You look like a man chewing nails." What happened? Uncle Reggie owned a narrow barbershop 2 doors down from the diner, the kind with old sports posters curling at the edges and men who knew when to joke and when to lower their voices. I did not tell him every detail. I told him enough. He listened without interrupting, fingertips resting on a red coffee mug, then asked one question. What do you want? Not what you owed. I hated that question because I did not know yet. I wanted my wife to be somebody she was not proving herself to be. Reggie nodded like he could hear that answer before I said it. He gave me the number for Denise Granger, a divorce attorney in Hyde Park, who handled things without theatrics. I met her in a second-floor office above a tax preparer and a travel agency. The radiator hissed the whole time. Denise was in her 50s, smooth-voiced, direct, and impossible to charm past the facts. She looked through the flash drive, then looked at me. You have adultery, financial misuse, and possible tax exposure if those reimbursements cross joint filings. My throat tightened at the word exposure. Do not confront her until you decide your objective, she said. Pain is not an objective. That sentence stayed with me because it forced me to separate being hurt from being purposeful. Denise told me to document account balances, copy the mortgage records, print shared credit statements, and stop putting new money anywhere Nia could move without my knowledge. She also told me something that cut close. Men like you think calm means kind. Sometimes calm is just delayed surrender. I drove home by way of Stony Island with the lake wind pushing dirty snow across the lanes, and I admitted something ugly to myself. For years I had been bargaining with disrespect because I preferred it to chaos. I made my second decision the week before my mother's church anniversary. I could have told both families then. I had enough. I could have marched into New Mount Calvary after service, asked Nia to step into the vestibule, and ended my marriage under stained glass and folded bulletins. Part of me wanted witnesses. Part of me wanted her to feel cornered for once. But I chose not to do that because my Mother's Day belonged to my mother, not my pain. Also, if I was honest, I still wanted to give Nia one clean chance to tell the truth without an audience. Spring tried to arrive and mostly failed. Chicago does that. One day sun on the church steps. Next day wind sharp enough to split your ears. Through all of it, Nia kept moving like somebody late for a better life. She bought a white coat with wide lapels and started keeping overnight basics in her trunk for long campus days. She switched perfumes. She began using a smile on me that felt rehearsed, like she was trying on warmth from memory. Sometimes I would sit at the dining table with oboe pads spread out in rows and hear her upstairs laughing into a phone she claimed was dead 10 minutes earlier. The college's Founders Gala landed in late April, and the house revolved around it for 2 straight weeks. Nia lived in garment bags, RSVP lists, and little muttered rehearsals. She was hosting a donor pre-party, then the gala, then an after-hours industry mixer at a rooftop place in the West Loop called the Lantern Room. She said it 3 times around me like I was a staff. The night of the event, she came downstairs in a copper-colored dress I had never seen and earrings I had given her on our 10th anniversary. "How do I look?" she asked. "Expensive," I said. She smiled like it was praise. I had already prepared the dining room table before she left. That table mattered. I had refinished it by hand our second year in the house, sanding through old scratches, rubbing dark walnut stains into grain. Sealing it with patience I did not know then I would someday need for myself. On that table I laid out printed hotel invoices, the copied reimbursement forms, one photo of Nia and Terrence by the mirror, the flash drive, a separate checking account form with only my name, and Denise Granger's business card. I also left her wedding ring box open and empty beside the stack. The house was too still once she left. I tried to watch a Bulls replay with the volume low. I made tea I did not want. Around 11:40, my phone buzzed. Nia's name. I answered and got music first, bass thick enough to rattle through the speaker. Then her voice, already irritated. "Why are you calling me and not texting?" I said, "Are you coming home tonight?" She laughed without humor. "I told you what tonight was." I asked, "Are you with Terrence?" That did it. Her tone snapped hard. "Then divorce me, Byron. Seriously, if my life offends you that much, do it." I did not match her volume. I looked at the dark window over the sink and said, "Check the dining room table before you say another word to me." Then I hung up. No speech. No accusation. Just that. 30 seconds later, she called back. I let it ring. Then another call. Then a text. "What did you do?" I did not answer. I sat in the kitchen and listened to the old refrigerator hum, and the train somewhere in the distance pushing south. 7 minutes later, our driveway camera pinged my phone. Headlights swept across the porch. She was home. She came through the front door so fast she forgot the alarm code and set the keypad chirping. Her heels hit hardwood, stopped, then started again toward the dining room. I stayed in the kitchen. I heard the paper shuffle, one sharp inhale, then nothing. That silence unnerved me more than shouting would have. When she finally appeared in the doorway, she looked smaller somehow, though not softer. Her lipstick was perfect. Her face was not. "You went through my things," she said. I said, "I went through with my marriage." She looked past me like the room itself had betrayed her. She picked up the photo first, then the reimbursement forms, then Denise's card. "You set this out like some sick presentation." "It is a timeline," I said. "You like those?" Her eyes flashed then. "Do not get cute with me. I am fresh out of cuteness." That made her flinch because I almost never spoke that way. She started building explanations the way some people build sandbags before a storm. Terrence was only a consultant. Some hotel rooms were blocks of reserved room for donors. Some charges were mistakes by staff. Some pictures were taken out of context. The problem with lies is not their size. It is their maintenance. I let her talk until she ran low on confidence and started reaching for indignation instead. "You had no right to copy financial records from my work. Your work used our tax filing address for reimbursement mail." I said, "That makes it my problem too." That landed. She stared at the separate account form on the table. "What is that?" "Tomorrow my direct deposit changes. Also tomorrow I file for separation." Her mouth fell open just a little, enough for me to see that she really had believed the nightclub line was safe to throw. She thought "divorce me" was still just theater. Then the pleading came, uneven and fast. "Do not do this tonight. Not over paper. Not over one ugly season." I looked at her. This is not one season. It is months, maybe longer. And it is not just cheating, Nia. It is lying with documents. She sat down hard in one of the dining chairs, the same chair where she used to shell peas with my aunt in the summer. "You are going to ruin everything." "No," I said. "I am stepping out of the way of what you already built." That was the closest I came to cruelty, and even then it was only accuracy delivered plainly. She asked if I had told anybody. I said, "Not yet." That answer made her inhale in relief so obvious, it almost embarrassed me on her behalf. Not because she cared what this had done to me, but because she still thought the image might survive if handled early enough. "Then let's keep this between us," she said quickly. "We can get counseling. We can separate privately. We can work with a mediator." She loved the process when the process protected her. I told her Denise already had copies. I also told her there was a compliance packet drafted but unsent. Her face changed again, fear moving in cleanly this time. I did not stay for the rest of the performance. I packed a duffel bag with 2 pairs of jeans, work shirts, underclothes, and my grandfather's watch. I took the flash drive, my laptop, and the old Zenith radio chassis I had been restored in the basement because I suddenly could not bear the thought of leaving one more thing I care about under her roof without reason. At the door, she said, "You're really walking out?" I said, "No, I am walking correctly for the first time." Then I went to Uncle Reggie's room above the barber shop and listened to traffic on 79th until morning. Sleeping above a barber shop is its own kind of strange comfort. Clippers start early downstairs. Men laugh in the chest there, not the throat. By 8 a.m., Reggie had pushed open the door with coffee and a paper sack from the diner. Eggs. Eat. I sat on the narrow bed, paper plates between us, and told him the rest. He did not say "I told you so." He only asked what my next move was. That mattered because it kept me in action, not collapse. I called Denise at 8:30. By noon, my direct deposit was changed, my personal accounts were moved, and my separation filing was in motion. Sending the compliance packet took me 2 more days, and I did not do it out of revenge. I did it because Denise laid the tax issue out in plain terms. If Nia had used donor or school funds to cover personal hotel stays, and those reimbursements fed into our shared household picture, I needed a documented line between her misconduct and my finances. So I stripped the packet down to facts. Invoices, reimbursement forms, dates, attachments, no insults, no marriage details, no photos that were not financially relevant. I sent it to the college's internal compliance office and copied Denise. Then I went to work and repaired a dented tenor saxophone. Consequences did not fall from the ceiling all at once. They arrived like hard mail. First came a terse email from the college acknowledging receipt and opening an audit. Then came Nia's calls, no longer furious, not yet apologetic, living in that ugly middle place where panic borrows whatever tone it thinks might work. I did not pick up. She left voicemails anyway. "Please call me before this gets bigger. You do not understand how these people operate. Terrence said it was standard." That last one told me more than she intended. When blame starts spreading, loyalty has already left the room. Her mother called me on the 3rd day. Ms. Claudine Foster had always kept herself elegant enough to make everybody else sit up straighter. I expected defense. Instead, I got weary. "Nia told me you two were having communication problems," she said. This sounds larger than communication. I told her only what she needed to know. There had been an affair. There were financial irregularities. Attorneys were involved, and I would not be discussing the intimate details of my marriage as gossip. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "You should have been treated with more dignity than this." I sat with that sentence after the call ended. Nia's younger cousin Kara delivered the rest of the family texture without meaning to. She texted me asking if I was all right and whether the Sunday rumors were true. I had not started the rumors. Churches do not need much help. Somebody at the college had clearly spoken to somebody's aunt, and from there the news rode casseroles and prayer circles all over the South Side. I answered Kiara carefully. "I am handling what I need to handle." She wrote back, "That usually means yes." I actually laughed, the first real laugh in days. Pain does not erase the accuracy of family women. Terrence, for all his smoothness, turned out to be exactly the sort of man I suspected he was when pressure arrived. He sent one email through an attorney denying impropriety and characterizing the hotel charges as misunderstood event logistics. Denise responded with dates, room occupancy records, and a dry question about why event logistics required 1 king bed and breakfast for 2. After that, his side got much quieter. Nia called once from a block number and said, "He is trying to protect his career." I answered before I could stop myself. Interesting. He was never protecting my marriage. Then I blocked that number too. About 2 weeks in, Nia tried a different stage. She posted on social media about private pain, boundaries, and finding clarity when people weaponize your lowest moments. Mutual friends began checking in with me sideways, fishing without wanting to appear as though they were fishing. I made another decision there. I could have dropped screenshots in public. I had enough to embarrass both of them all summer. I chose not to because spectacle has a half-life, and truth does not need glitter to stand up. Anybody who mattered would learn what mattered. Anybody who only wanted drama could stay hungry. The college placed Nia on administrative leave pending the audit. That was not something I announced. She told me in a long email. She began with, "I hope this satisfies you," and ended with, "I did not think you had this in you." It was a revealing line, more revealing than any apology would have been, because it showed exactly how she had arranged me in her mind. Gentle meant harmless. Patient meant available for mistreatment. Faithful meant fixed in place. I answered with one sentence. You mistook restraint for permission. Then I closed a laptop and went downstairs for a haircut. I did not need just to hear normal talk. A month later, Denise and I met to review the divorce petition line by line. Infidelity was included. Financial concealment was included. I did not ask for blood. I asked for fairness, for documented separation of assets, for protection from liabilities tied to her conduct, and for the house to be sold instead of turned into a prolonged argument. Denise slid the pages toward me with a blue pen. I looked at my name and thought of all the times I had said, "It is fine," when it was not fine. Then I signed. The motion of my hand felt steadier than I expected. Grief can sit right beside certainty. Packing my things from the bungalow happened on a bright day that made the house look innocent, that irritated me. Sunlight on the floors, lemon cleaner in the hallway. One of Nia's throw blankets folded just so on the couch, like a presentation could still rescue content. I took my workbench tools, clothes, records, family photos, my father's Bible with his notes in the margins, and the walnut chessboard Reggie had given me when I turned 30. I left the wedding gifts, the expensive stemware, and every decorative bowl Nia had ever arranged with dry branches. My life did not need props anymore. I rented a one-bedroom above a mural supply store in Bronzeville, on a block where the train could be heard more than seen, and the coffee shop owner downstairs knew everybody's order by the second week. The apartment had radiator heat, uneven floors, and exactly one good window that caught late afternoon light. It was perfect. On Saturdays, I carried repair jobs to the little desk by that window and worked with jazz low in the background while the street below ran on buses, sneakers, and summer arguments. Peace there did not feel fragile. It felt ordinary, which is a deeper luxury than people admit. Healing was not glamorous. It looked like sleeping through the night without replaying conversations. It looked like eating at normal times. It looked like telling the truth when people asked why the marriage ended, but only the amount of truth they had earned. It looked like going back to Aunt Pearline's and letting her put too much food on my plate while she pretended not to study my face. One Sunday, she wrapped pound cake in foil for me and said, "Baby, next time do not wait for proof so long that your spirit gets ragged." I nodded because there was nothing to argue with. The last contact from Nia came in early fall, a short email asking if I still had the black fountain pen she used for major donor letters. I did. I had found it under the passenger seat of my truck months earlier. I mailed it to her with no note. That was it. No grand closure. No final speech. And maybe that is the most honest ending I can offer. The nightclub did not end my marriage. The sentence, "Then divorce me," did not end it either. What ended it was me finally answering with boundary instead of a plea, and then living like I meant it. If this story stayed with you, like this video, share it with someone who needs a reminder that boundaries matter, and subscribe for more original cheating, marriage betrayal, and relationship karma stories told with real emotion and realistic consequences. There's always another story, and the next one might hit even closer to home. The part of this story that matters most is not the rooftop club, or even the affair. It is the walnut dining table, the copied records, and the fact that Byron chose documentation over public chaos. He did not heal by humiliating her. He healed by getting precise, protecting himself legally, and refusing to keep translating disrespect into miscommunication. That is usually where real accountability starts. The end.